Hello students, welcome to video lesson 8.2. We're going to start talking in this video about equations, specifically equations that have two variables in them. We have talked in the past about solving equations or finding solutions to equations with one variable, and now we're going to start talking about what does it mean and what does it look like to find solutions to equations with two variables. Okay, now this connects with our last couple videos because when we find relations that are functions, they can often be written as equations with an x variable and a y variable, the x representing the input values or the domain, and the y representing the output variables or the range. Okay, so I've given you three examples here just of what these types of equations might look like. Okay, so here we have obviously an x and a y variable, 2x minus y equals 5. This one we have y all by itself on one side, y equals 3x plus 1. This one says y minus 1 is equal to 2x. So these are all equations that relate x and y, and they represent, in these particular cases, functions or relations. And yeah, we're going to start investigating these a little bit today. Specifically, we're going to represent investigate the solutions to these equations. And what we mean by that is these equations represent a function or a relation that has an infinite number of coordinate points. Okay, so there are a bunch of coordinate points x, y, that look like this, that fit these different equations. Okay, so what we're going to start to do is we're going to start to find coordinate points that fit into each of these equations, okay? And those are called solutions to the equations. Values for the variables, in this case we have two variables, x and y, so we have to represent our values as a coordinate point, okay, in parentheses like this. X and y that fit these equations, basically make them true statements, okay? So here's just a quick example. Here's a coordinate point, 1, comma negative 3. And this coordinate point, this value of x and y, remember x is always first, is a solution to this equation 2x minus y equals 5. The reason we know that it's a solution to the equation is because if I replace the x variable in this equation with a number 1 and I replace the y with a negative 3, I can investigate the math and do just the numerical operations and see, does it actually equal 5? Are both sides of this equal sign truly equal? If they are, then I have found a coordinate point, x comma y, that is a solution to the equation. Okay, so I plug 1 in for x, and that now says 2 times 1. Instead of 2 times x, now it says 2 times 1. And 2 times 1 is 2. And then it says minus a negative 3 because that was the value I put in for y. So minus negative 3, 2 minus negative 3. Well, minusing a negative is really adding, right? Adding a positive. So this is really 2 plus 3. And 2 plus 3, last I checked, does equal 5, right? So the answer here is yes. Yes, this is a solution. Okay, so that's mostly what your homework is going to look like. Is this coordinate point, this value for x and for y, is that point a solution to the equation that you've been given, okay? And again, the equation sort of represents the function or the relation. So what we're doing is seeing, is this coordinate point one of the coordinate points for this function, okay? Yes or no. Here's another example. Is 4 comma 7 a solution to that same equation? Well, again, if we look at our coordinate point, 4 comma 7, we use those values for x and y. We replace the variables in the equation with those particular values, and we investigate and see, does that work? Does it make sense? Is it a true statement? So we end up with 2 times 4. Instead of 2 times x, it's 2 times 4 minus 7. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 minus 7, that's 1. 1 is equal to 5 is now what this equation says. Is 1 equal to 5? No, this is not true. So the answer here is no. 4, 7 is not a solution to this equation, okay? So because when we plug the value 4 into the x and we plug 7 into the y, when we do the math of the equation, it does not equal 5, okay? One thing that I want to point out that I know a few of us had trouble with previously when we were sort of evaluating these algebraic expressions, plugging numbers in and evaluating, please remember that when you see something like this, 2x, this means 2 times the x value, okay? It doesn't mean, like if we put 4 in there, this does not become 24. Okay, it's not just putting that digit next to the 2. It's actually multiplication. When a number is next to a variable, we have to multiply those values together, okay? And that will help us do the math correctly. Please do also remember to follow the order of operations when you're doing your math, right? We need to make sure that we do our multiplying and dividing before we do our adding and subtracting. But we do need to do our grouping symbols first, or our parentheses first, right? We shouldn't have anything with exponents or roots in this case, but please do make sure we're multiplying and dividing before we add or subtract. If you have any questions about how to determine if a coordinate point is a solution to a specific equation that has 2 separate variables, please reach out to me, ask for help somehow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you right now, and we'll talk to you soon.